Oh, that's okay.
7 suggestions for improving the discussion on high school dropouts. Be transparent, go Moneyball, insist on mastery, follow students longer, look at more than just the grad rate, coordinate with colleges to create a meaningful standard, and personalize the problem.
I think for when it listed the following students longer, like I know, like I grew up in a small town, we had like 250 students in the graduating class. But I know that there are graduating classes that have like over 1,000 kids.
Yeah,
So like, how do you follow those kids? So, I mean, the sheer amount of numbers is obviously a problem. But I think the problem within that problem is that this public school systems, especially, they don't have the funding they need to hire the teachers they need. And the teachers they may have the ability to hire may not be the most qualified teachers because, well, that's all we could afford. So it's not always the best. So I think there's problems within problems within problems. They're not, always addressing.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's more to it than just what we observe.
Right. And I hate that the solution to a lot of things is, well, money. Can't afford it. Well, education is just one of those things I feel like the government should be affording.
Yeah.
Not, and it makes me angry. I know. Anyway.
All right. And the second question. The article suggests that graduation rates need to be transparent and explain why students drop out. Your textbook suggests several reasons students drop out. How do you think understanding these reasons would help schools reach their dropouts?
I mean, right off the bat, I feel like it's pretty obvious. Like, if we don't know why or like the factors why kids are failing or dropping out, you can't address the issue. So,
sorry.
No, I was done.
I think it allows for like focused attention. If we know why students do things, then we'll know what causes them to, like the signs of what will lead up to that, and then action can be taken earlier than when they just drop out.
So like stuff like early intervention, basically, like I think the example I gave was in the textbook. One of the examples was absences, but that's so vague. Like, why are they absent? Are they chronically ill? Do they have a lack of parental supervision or motivation? Are they in a gang? Are they using drugs and alcohol? Or teen pregnancy is one that stood out to me because my best friend in high school got pregnant junior year, and she had morning sickness. She was sick a lot, and then she had her son, and well, she was a mom. She couldn't always be at school. She didn't always have a babysitter. She didn't always have the help she needed. And because she was absent, she was able to graduate, but they didn't let her walk across the stage with everybody else, which I didn't think was fair.
No,
but I mean, if like teen pregnancy is an issue, like you can look at better sex education. And I know it's controversial, but more accessible contraception. Some parents are like, oh, birth control. I don't want my daughter on birth control. But if she's sexually active, it might be important to at least think about, talk about. Yeah. And also, I had just taken my son in recently for his well check, and they talked to me about the HPV vaccination is available to 9-year-olds. I was like, well, I'm gonna do it, but 9 years old, that's crazy.
Dang.
So I mean, there are a lot of things and a lot of ways that you know, society is trying to get that early intervention in different areas. So,
and I definitely think we're doing better at early intervention with a lot of things. So,
yeah, so somewhere along the line, whoever stressed the early intervention, that's helping a lot. Even with like ADHD, early intervention, like that's again why I took my son to get his checkup, because his teacher's concerned that he has ADHD. And she's like, well, it's only going to get harder from here. It's only going to get more difficult. Like those kids who don't catch the ADHD until they're in high school and they're failing classes, they're failing the special education classes. Then they drop out and they're, anyway.
Yeah. Okay, do you think we answered number 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Top 3 years off.
Number 3, another suggestion is for districts to go Moneyball, that they get more data about students. What sort of data do you think that districts would need about students that could increase the graduation rate? I think family situations could be one. I think that impacts a lot of students. Like examples, parents' marital status, the blend of their family, that kind of thing. Other data could be grades, social interactions, involvement in school-sponsored activities. And those are just a few things I said.
Yeah, I think family structure is a really big one. It's like last week that was last week was the gangs. The week before that was family and delinquency, I think. But we learned a lot about how the family structure affects that. You know, how kids from a 2-parent, you know, from both of their parents are in the home are so much more less likely. Kids being raised by a single parent, which is often the mom, have a higher risk. Kids in blended families with step parents, also a higher risk, and so on. So I think that has a huge impact. And people might feel like, hey, that's my business, mind your own.
Yeah.
But I feel like because it does have such a strong correlation, you know, people should be paying more attention to that.
Sure.
Or they're in general unwilling to admit that their problems are affecting their children.
Yeah.
But they do.
Oh, it's sad.
No.
All right. Number 4. Several of the people interviewed said that they also need districts to look at more statistics than just the graduation rate. What other factors do you think districts should look at that would influence education outcomes?
I think looking at student enrollment in elective courses versus core classes and the respective grades that they get. Like, oh, these kids get, you know, A's in band and choir. Well, obviously they're having fun, you know, but they're failing in math and science or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that I think that kids shouldn't be allowed to take band and choir when they're struggling in other classes, but if they're struggling in other classes, maybe, you know, their band and choir class, they need to, like, well, you're failing in math, so unfortunately this week you're going to have to take a study hall instead of band or whatever, like on a situational basis. I know that wouldn't go over well, but
yeah,
like
the kids would be very mad.
Well, my band teacher in high school is actually one of my closest friends in high school and beyond. And like, if he heard me say that, he'd probably punch me right in the face. But
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
That's an idea. Anyway,
At that point, yeah. I think also you mentioned earlier pregnancies. I don't think that it should just be categories of these people graduated, these people didn't graduate. It should be like why this person didn't graduate.
Mhm.
And I think that could include like pregnancy, finances, again, family structure, that kind of thing.
So like individual evaluations.
Yeah. Because if like 90% of the people who drop out were pregnant, like it's kind of weird to be teaching males that like other reasons why they shouldn't be dropping out.
Yeah. And you can't just assume that they're the daddies of all these babies. Like
Yeah.
most girls have, especially the ones who are pregnant in high school, are with older boys. I mean, that's just girls mature sooner. So typically the boys they look or are attracted to are slightly older because boys mature slower.
Yeah. True.
I never dated anyone in my class because they were all like children.
Oh, true.
And my husband's 7 years older than me. So it stuck.
Nice.
Anyway.
All right, last one. John Gompertz asked, what if what counted in a diploma in a state is what an institution of higher education in that state would recognize for admission? Do you think a high school diploma should be all that is needed for college admission? Why or why not? This question is confusing because
I don't think it was worded right.
Look at other things, but like really the only set requirement is a diploma. Like some suggest certain ACT scores and GPA, but
yeah, like I just remember I went to BYU Idaho in Rexburg 10 years ago. Even then, I had to have I don't remember if it was the SAT or the ACT, whichever one is the lesser. Like, I had to have my high school transcript, which includes the GPA and then the academic profile breakdown of, how I did in which subjects. And then that score. And some colleges require you to submit like some type of persuasive essay, like why I'm a good fit for your program and I promise to perform in the following ways.
Yeah, like BYU has like 7 different essays that you have to do.
Yeah.
I know, right? That makes me just not want to go there.
Like, well, I wasn't willing to do that. But if you look at that in the perspective, okay, so if you look at high school kids who are not willing to do that, if all colleges require that you have your high school transcripts with a good GPA, you have your SAT, ACTs, you submit 7 persuasive essays or the likes. If all colleges required kids to do that, they wouldn't, like, the price would be too high. That I don't know that the majority of students would work that hard. You already have a majority of students that don't work that hard to figure out what their college plan is. So, but do we lower the bar so far that, well, anybody can go? And it's setting them up for failure because college is meant to be hard. And if we let them in with the expectation that it's going to be anything but that, it's just misleading.
Yeah. I talked to him, I think that's a good point that like it makes sense to me that there's different, like colleges require different things because if you want to get into an upper level college, it takes more work to get in there. So I don't think that all colleges should require the same things because, like you said, then people just wouldn't go to college because they would be too difficult to get into. But like BYU Idaho, you just need your transcripts and your test scores. But like it's harder to get into BYU Provo for a reason because it's more prestigious of a school. And so I think that it's like a good thing that schools require different things.
Yeah, and I think so too. Like you might have students who do come from disadvantaged, and I think a lot of kids in the pathway program and entry level BYU Idaho are kids coming from other countries where English is their second language. And or parents, especially for like LDS families, you have, people who are younger, who are parents, who are trying to go to school. When my parents, well, it was Rick's back then, but my parents and like several of my aunts and uncles were all married with like one or two kids going to Rick's. So, I mean, it has to have some type of adjustment, I guess, for people in different stages of their life too. Which is why BYU Idaho is so awesome in that regard.
Yeah. So,
But yeah,
do you think we answered all the questions?
I think so.
Cool. That was a quick one today.
Yeah, very nice. Cool. All right. Well,